What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest of cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers. Those people of color have made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and it's always enjoyed by Shannon Times.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? And Daniel Acevedo.
How's it going, guys?
What's going on? So, welcome to Tuesday's episode. So, Monday, Tuesday are topics. Wednesday, discussion. Thursday's Ask a CISSP. So, I think this episode is finally ready. So, it took me a long time to fix it up. But Riverside, like, it's free plug. Riverside has some new tools. You can isolate tracks. And basically, what happened was it was a duplication where she was coming through her audio and my audio because my mic was too close and I wasn't wearing headphones because I was being lazy. And that caused a time slippage. So you will not see me most of the video, but you will hear us. So that's the most important part. And then Friday's everything else. So movies, splits, games, all that good stuff. But without further ado, I'll give it to Shannon.
So if there was time slippage, is it going to be like Time Cop? Are we going to see Jean-Claude Van Damme doing splits in this?
I have not thought of Time Cop in at least a decade.
Low key, great movie. Low key.
Did you like it?
It's like an 80s classic. It's not a good movie, but I enjoy it. Yeah. It's Jean-Claude Van Damme, man.
It is kind of like that, you know. I was like, Look, I'm getting us off track all week this week. It's crazy. All right, everybody. This article comes from justice.gov, actually has this one out there, right? The title of it is United States files suit against the Georgia Institute of Technology and Georgia Tech Research Corporation alleging cybersecurity violations, right? So what's interesting about this, we kind of had this discussion before, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about this, about self-attestation, because this is where it goes wrong, right? Because what pretty much was happening was they were submitting false results for how they were securing a network that sometimes wasn't even real, right? Is the way that this reads, right? So I think with this one, this is the one that had the whistleblowers, right? Like it had the whistleblowers in it that came forward and was like, hey, you'll need to take a better look at this, I believe is how this all came about. And when they went and they looked a little bit harder, they said from at least May of 2019 to at least February 2020, there was this lab at Georgia Tech. They didn't develop or implement the required system security plan. So any network has to have an SSP, right? System security plan, to say, hey, this is how we're going to manage things. Now, it doesn't have to have all of your steps, your SOPs or anything written down to say this is exactly how we're going to do these things, but it needs to say we are going to do these things. This is how we go about, like more of a process type thing, right? But they didn't even have an SSP for these networks that they were doing. And the reason they're going after them is because they were doing work with the government, right? So you can't submit this report saying, I'm doing these things for a network that, like I said, doesn't even exist. They mentioned in one part here, right? Like it doesn't exist, or it was, I don't want to say theoretical, but it wasn't legit what was being brought up, right? So, and what they also talk about in this article, and you see this sometimes, right? I hate to say it like this, but you have some people that they get to be high enough or they provide enough to where they can make cybersecurity a secondary thought, right? And that's kind of what was happening here was they had kind of like these star researchers, you know, at these labs and at these university to where they were like, hey, we're bringing in money to this university, right? We're going to do this study. We got you this grant that brought money into the university. And they were like, us being, they said they treat them like star quarterbacks, I think is how they reference it in the article, right? So they would be like, hey, this cybersecurity is slowing us down, right? Like all these things that are put in place to keep your information safe, to keep your people safe, not necessarily physical security, but in the cyber realm. They were trying to forego all those things. They were like, we don't want to do that. It slows us up. And I understand it, right? Like in my job, I get it a lot where people will come to us and be like, hey, because of this, I can't do this, that, and the third. But like, yes, that is intentional. You know what I mean? Like I hate to come off as that guy. I like to think I'm nicer than how I sound sometimes, but sometimes it just happens like that. Like it is intentionally hard. It is intentionally takes a lot of time for you to do these things. It is for safety of information. You know what I mean? But like I said, we had hit on this a couple weeks ago. I think it was you, Daniel, that brought it up, talking about self-attestation and how people could just be out there doing whatever they want to do. And this is a perfect example of it. And it's been happening starting 5 years ago now. Like I said, it was May 2019. So they're being investigated, and like I said, it's the U.S. government that's on them, right? So like, there was a lawsuit filed against them, and it's being handled by the Justice Department Civil Division and the United States Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Georgia. So you got the real deal on you right now, right? So like,
Get
I
'em.
realize. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I realize the government doesn't have infinite money, but they got enough to go after you and get to the bottom of this. You know what I'm saying? So, interesting story here. But like, this is just goes along the lines of what has been discussed on this show before when it comes to holding some of these larger organizations accountable for their cybersecurity. But Daniel, what's your thoughts on this, man?
Oh man, this is rough. Like, blow it up. I'm not one for people losing their jobs, but lop some heads. This is from the person that runs the university, whoever runs the labs. Heads need to roll, because this is just kind of a blatant, ignorance at this point, right? Just kind of like looking over what's responsible just because you don't understand it and you don't want people to be upset for a little bit of inconvenience. I think, especially,
but you can't even call it ignorance though, because they knew. It's not like they didn't know. They knew what was there, and they just were not doing it, or they were making it up. That's willful negligence. You know what I mean?
Which is even worse. It's a hard story to read, especially for our panel, because we've kind of lived in this world. We've all worked compliance. We've all worked either ISM or ISO jobs, or specifically this, right? And then especially like for a contract from a university to the government, right? So we don't know if they had networks that tied into the government. We don't know if they were developing things that were then going to be implemented in devices for the government. Either way you look at it, it's horrible, because the information that is there, if it gets leaked or isn't properly protected one way or the other, could have consequences in the forms of like either China stealing it and duplicating it, us losing intellectual property, being a foothold into a government network. The list goes on and on, right? Especially low-hanging fruit, like not wanting to do like antivirus stuff, or having a system security plan just to show, hey, this is the bare minimum stuff. We're gonna have people do training. We're gonna make sure our endpoints are secure. We're gonna have these type of tools and systems in place to make sure that vulnerabilities out in the open aren't on the systems, on and on and on, right? Like, it doesn't take that much to do, especially since what they're probably doing is much more intricate and difficult than having a steady security policy in place. And probably the whistleblowers are the people that brought this to their attention, and they told them to shut up in color, and they're like, okay, all right, we will.
Yeah.
And now they're probably wishing they had listened to those guys and actually put either the resources or the personnel to help those people that were trying to stand this thing up. So, I don't know, it's just kind of things like this that where you have probably toxic leadership or the bad people managing a division like this that don't understand how everything really interworks with each other, which makes me feel blessed to have really good leaders both in the military and outside of the military, the different levels that understood how important my job was previously and is now, that helped me enforce what I was trying to do for our environments to keep it safe. But those are my 2 cents. What do you think, Ryan?
No, absolutely. So real quick ad read. So this could be you. All right. Tune in to The Other Side of the Firewall, where host Ryan and his co-host break down the latest in cybersecurity with a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Whether you're new to the field or a seasoned pro, get the insights and stories you need to thrive in the world of GRC. See, that could be you. See, short and simple. That could be the pre or the end roll of your ad. I can do that. All right. So back to the topic at hand. Universities are messing up. So here's the thing, because it's not the first time we've had this. I think it was either was it Penn State that also had a lawsuit alleged against them for lying, and falsifying government documents. So there's so much scrutiny on universities right now when it comes to just cybersecurity in general, but then also you have like GLBA, right? So GLBA stands for the Graham-Leach-Bailey Act. So it used to not really focus too heavily on universities. It used to just be for financial institutions, things of that nature, but universities taking a lot of financial information. So now they also fall within some of the provisions of the act that are a little bit stronger. So I did a webinar for Compliance Point last year when the new rules went into effect. So if you are a university, there are a lot of different frameworks that you need to be aware of. You should probably find someone who can then handle a lot of your new restrictions, regulations, things of that nature, controls that you should be following if you're not a seasoned cybersecurity professional. But then you also have to be somewhat aware of what you should also be in charge of and tracking, right? Like, just because you're not a GRC person doesn't mean that you get to be ignorant to the facts. So in this case, I don't believe it was ignorance. I believe it was negligence. Like Shannon said, like, these people are treated like, star athletes, which they should be, because I'm tired of only star athletes getting star athlete treatment, right? Like, what about, like, in this case, if you're a Georgia Tech, a Pitt, RIT, like any of the ITs at the end of your university, you should be treating the people who bring money into your university like stars. But then you also have to, regulate them. You can't. Yeah. You can't just give them
So Ryan, we lost you there for a second, man. Like your audio is not coming through, but I think the point you were getting at was, yes, you do want these people to come in and do what they want to do, right? So they are bringing money into the university. Yes, we do understand that, but you have to follow the guidelines that are set forth for you, especially when it comes to you dealing with the government, right? Like, it could be way more far-reaching.
No, absolutely.
Can you hear me? I wanted to make that. Yeah, we can. I wanted to make that one point, and it was a perfect segue. Thanks for pitching me that easy home run, Shannon. Because the thing is, I don't want the government to overreach in every aspect, but since this is starting to be kind of systematic at this point, at what point does the government, I mean, they're stretched thin too. We don't have bodies to be doing everything everywhere. But at what point do we start, like, assigning somebody to check in or do follow-ups or do maybe even touch assessments for these universities that do R&D or that have these contracts and do these things with the government now at this point?
And they're getting a lot of money. That's the thing. They're getting a lot of money from the government. It's not like they're just getting,
it's a contract. They're getting millions of dollars. It's not like they're doing this for free.
Right.
But I think that that's what this is for. Like, all these lawsuits and things that are targeting.
All right, man, we lost you again, Ryan. So, no, you're right. What you were getting to is, like, they're becoming soft targets, right? I think that's what you were trying to get to, was that, it's just like, guns in schools, right? Like, you're going to find the easy target. Especially when it comes to ransomware, right? Like, it's the most amount of money you can get for doing the least amount of work, right? So when you make it easy for them and you don't do what you're supposed to do, they know these things, right? Like, they don't have to probe as hard as they used to get in there and make the money doing these types of things. You know what I'm saying?
No, I agree. And the thing is, like I alluded to in the beginning of when I was talking, it's just the type of information that's there in these universities and what they're doing. Now it becomes like just low-hanging fruit for these guys to come in and then, obtain, right? And then for whatever reasons they're going to use it for, we need to protect this stuff because we don't know what Georgia Tech is doing, right? We don't know what this lab is developing for the government. We're going to pitch it to Ryan again. There we go.
So I'm going to land this plane before I cut out again. So definitely continue to tune in throughout the week. So Monday, Tuesday are topics, Wednesday discussion, Thursdays Ask a CISSP, and then Fridays everything else, movies, books, games, all that good stuff. Hit us up at all the websites that go by our name. You can hit me up personally. I'm at RyRy Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy. And where can they find you, Daniel?
Under LinkedIn by my name, Daniel Acevedo.
There it is. Stay safe. Stay secure.